religious leader, we need to focus on Malian. We need to focus on Mali. We need to focus on Mali. What Malian wants and what.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us today, and I'm very happy to host you for this first panel. My name is Moussa, and this is the first edition of our ladies and gentlemen English panel, speaking about Mali and what's going on in our country, talking about different topics and the dynamics going on right now. As you may know, since a couple of months now, our country is going through an incredible crisis, and this has been reported and covered by Francophone media. For us, it's important to create content so English-spoken countries and the people outside of Mali and even inside could have a sort of understanding about what's going on. So I'm really pleased today to host people who've been doing incredible work in the different sectors. They will be talking to us and explaining us what the dynamic and what kind of solution or thinking to what could be the next. This panel is organized by Accountability Lab, which works a lot on governance, transparency, and accountability, and also Instrument for Africa, which is I for Africa, a huge network working to promote and also the production house. So thanks so much for joining us. My first question to my panelists will be to introduce themselves and tell us what they're doing in an everyday basis. So I will start on my left, Fatih. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored by that. I'm Fatima Ansar. I'm currently working at Mali Center for Strategic Studies at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a political, international relation, and gender analyst. I'm also the founder of Tilwat Peace Network, which work on empowering young girls from different regions of Mali to become peace ambassadors.
Thanks so much, Fatih. Thanks for coming. Mohamed?
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so humbled. I am Mohamed Salaha. I'm a journalist, publisher at lemalimac.com. I also work as independent journalist for international media such as France 24, Al Jazeera, BBC. And I'm really happy to be in this panel today.
Thanks so much, Mohamed, for being with us. My right side right now.
Okay, thank you, Moussa. My name is Mody Berethe. I'm currently the head of the Bamako-based peacekeeping training school that is called École de Maintien de la Paix Lumlondembe. And our school actually is working to train people to be deployed in UN, AU, and ECOWAS, peacekeeping missions. But we also have a research center that focuses on conflict analysis and also looking into conflict trends. Moussa has actually invited me, as he's saying, as an expert. I don't know what type of expertise I have, but I have a little bit of background in peace and conflict. I've joined the peacekeeping training school in last November, coming from the UN mission in the CAR. And also I have an experience working mainly in the central part of Africa, on peace and conflict in Burundi, DRC, and also even in Ethiopia.
Thanks so much. The gentleman and lady been really humble. As you've seen, they are incredible, engaged in the field and make things happen in our country. So my first question will start, obviously, with my right, General Berethe, about a general overview about what's happening or what's going on or what happened in Mali to get us here where we are right now in this social crisis we're going through, and political, of course.
Okay, thank you, Moussa, for that. I think that today we cannot clearly say what happens when it comes to the facts. Going into the facts, in 18th of August, we know that the military, mainly young officer, rank of colonel, just put together their forces and went, to, I cannot say take the power, but went to, take the president physically and take it to Kati. And doing so, they also have secured their own hierarchy, taking most of the generals, taking those people to Kati. So we don't have today, a clear narrative on, who planned what and who did exactly what. But we can, have some element of analysis on what happened, on 18th of August. We do know that, before 18th of August, there were like 2 or 3 months of, public unrest and protest going on in the streets. And we know for sure that, there are many streams of people, walks of life, from, common Malian, and also from politicians that are wishing to see a solution to what was happening in the street, but because they could not see an end or a solution to what was happening. And I think that a lot of people started dreaming that there will be something that will be, I don't know, a quick, smooth or whatever. Actually, definitely some non-violent, military intervention into what was happening. So today, looking in African history, looking around us, we tend, to make comparison with things, of this kind that happened, like in 2017 in Zimbabwe, where they said that there was a kind of a new engineering of military eruption into the politics. I'm not going to say smart putsch, but they call it actually military assistance to democracy. I think that's
this is interesting.
You have kind of the normal way that democracy evolve, people protesting, but they don't get to a solution. This is what's happening in Zimbabwe, but Zimbabwe is quite different from Mali, because in Zimbabwe, the whole thing happened to the same kind of arena of the ZANU-PF. It's the same military were affiliated with ZANU-PF, and also, they got Mugabe to step down, but he was replaced by one, member of the ZANU-PF and all those kind of stuff. So then people, I don't know if it's irony, but they start calling this, the military assistance to democracy. So I'm not going to monopolize the floor. What I'm going to say that we have some signs, on which we can base our analysis today. We are not, it's a particular engineering, because what's happening is not like in the past. In the past, our continent was really much affected by a military coup. From the Independence Day, 60s to 90s, we had like two military coups, I think that the figures are two a year. But from the 90s, it just evolved to 1 every 2 years. So this is actually roughly the figures that we have. But we have a new move from 2017 where we can see the military coming into the arena, but the military coming in a more softer way. Because what's happening today in Bamako is that we have colonels that took power, we can say. They establish, as they do traditionally, Conseil National, Conseil National, for the transitional, whatever, to look at the business of the country. But at the same time, they just show that they're open to discussion. They show that they are open to, seeing other people's voice heard. And this is actually exactly what's happening today, where they call for a national consultation, and they don't want people to be excluded from, the conversation. I think that there are things there actually for fault in terms of, the engineering of coup d'etat, and also how do the military play this role. Maybe one interpretation we can already advance is that the military have been more exposed to all these democratic ideas, even if they don't adhere 100%, but they see they have a role to play, but they don't know how to conjugate now this role with the rest of the mechanisms that need to be put in place.
Thanks so much. You explained a little bit what's happening elsewhere in Africa, and also take a little one step back here in our country as Mali. This is a locked down country, the huge, one of the 3 biggest countries in Africa, one of the three poorest countries in the world. So we can completely imagine what could be the causes of this assistance, as you mentioned. I'm turning to Mohamed. What could, from before the August 18th, what, according to you and your experience, get us to this position? To get military to intervene, and what is the main causes?
Okay, from my point of view, I think since 2012, Mali is in a normal situation. So this situation we are in came far. It's not like a spontaneous. It's come from far. And when you're traveling around the world, Mali is seen as a negative way. Mali is introduced like a country of the center of terrorism, a country of the center of insecurity. Mali is defined as a red line. Many people are not authorized to travel in Mali. So the situation come far. So, but currently the situation we are living also, it's a situation that we were waiting for, because protests and unrest were deepened in Mali since the second mandate of the last or the resigning President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. People become really angry about the way he's ruling. So this make unhappiness around the political parts, around the religious cleric. So it gathered the frustration, and people called for him to resign. I think we could avoid this step by sincere, honest negotiation. But unfortunately, we didn't do so until we arrived to the democratic assistance. I'm learning from. I'm learning
Actually, the right acronym would be MAT. It's military assisted transition.
Yeah, since we came to
military assisted transition. Actually,
since we came to the military assistance for the democracy,
yeah.
so it was. We cannot say that it was sad, but it was somehow welcomed by Malian, because the first time we assist in a coup without try to do another coup or try to show unhappiness. People were waiting for change, maybe not by a coup, but people were really waiting for change. And the change we are hoping, we don't know if it's for now, because things are becoming confused. Currently, consultations are holding, and we got information that
it's not inclusive.
Yeah, it's not, but I cannot say that it's not inclusive, but there are some difficulties around people who are attending. So we really need to sit and talk among us.
Yeah.
Malian problem to be resolved by Malian.
Yeah, definitely. We will arrive to the point about what you see as a possible solution or a start thinking process. So I'm turning to Fatih about the same question. As in gender perspective or youth or whatever happens, he mentioned about this grievances about people expecting more the way the country is governed, the way they expect things to be, the link between the government and population. So what kind of analysis do you bring into that?
I mean, I think I would just maybe add to whatever my colleagues say already here, because I think that they have touched most of the things that I wanted to talk about. And I think Mohamed Salia mentioned the fact that this current crisis, the coup d'etat that happened, or the forcing the president to resign, it's not something that's just happened like now. It's something it's ongoing crisis, political, social, security. There have been a lot of ongoing political security that have been happening since 2012, even before that haven't been solved. And I think that the main problem is that we focus so much on trying to solve the leaders, what the leaders think that is the problem in Mali, but we don't really trying to get in touch with the people that are actually in need. There is a lack of education since for so many years, our system of education is really, really weak. And we have a very huge access to good health in Mali, access to security. So people were hoping that with the former president, that he will he would be able to address some of those big issues. I mean, I'm not blaming him, because he came in with a very difficult time with with the terrorism and the armed groups in the northern Mali, and then with the intercommunal conflicts happening in the center. So he actually came in with a lot. So when he came in, we have Mali had 25%. I would say that's my own analysis. Mali have 25% control of the country. But now today we lose 75% control of the whole country. So we are in a very weakened right now situation. So my view as a young woman is, right now, as a Malian, we need to really work together to find a solution, to have a very smooth transition, a transition that includes everybody, a transition that's really solve the biggest problems that we are having in the country, which is education, security, health. And I know that the transition, it's not long enough to solve all the problems in Mali, but at least we can try to communicate with the people. And that's why I think that the idea of like discussing the term of references before actually doing a national consultation was very important, because you can actually hear from Malians, what are your problems? What are your priorities? How do you think we can solve it? I don't know what's going to happen in the national consultation, but I think that it was very important that we discussed the term of references and then we came out with a common solution. And I think that we all should put down our arms to understand that right now we are in a very dangerous situation as a country, because there's a huge insecurity. We have an economic sanction in a country which is already economically weak. So if we continue like that, we might disappear as a country. So I think we should put our personal personal view aside to work with whoever is in power to actually come up with a very good transition. I see a lot on the social media that people are discussing about, we want a military transition, we want a civilian transition. I think the discussion shouldn't be about that. The discussion should be about, we want a leader with a vision, with an agenda, who is able to actually take over this transition. And it should be a consensual proposition from everybody in Mali.
Yeah, thanks so much. About transition, we will get back to that point, because this is one of the most important points we want to discuss with all of us today. You all talk about the poorest situation of the country and the expectations of the people. So when we have one hand a country with one of the poorest countries in the world, and the other hand you have the ambitions and the expectations of population in terms of democracy, in terms of human rights, in terms of military equipment and all that. So we have how to manage that, because one hand it is great to have dreams or to have ambitions to live in the right position, but when you live as a citizen, I know you're from Timbuktu, it could be like a kind of difficult to be or to have all you expect as a citizen. So is that things play a key role to revolution or protest or rallies against the government? If that is the case, what could be really the solution in such kind of a situation? Because we have seen a lot of corruption also. From the President IBK arrived in power in 2013, we've seen like 5 biggest corruption scandals. And it's like billions of CFA. So this tells us it's not just about the lack of money to invest in a social demand, but also the bad governance around the regime and the regime actors. So, General.
Okay, yeah, I think that the debate that Fatih is mentioning around civilian military actually it should be also taken seriously, in the sense that what we see somehow coming to your question is that people do project their desire and their dreams, as we are talking about the future, here on this panel. So what people actually do resent is that the country have been through like 3 decades of misgovernance. Because the misgovernance is not just about the bad governance, it's not about the IBK regime. This thing, we actually, as Malian, we have the sense that those stuff started in the 90s when all the rules and criteria were broken. You just need to be affiliated to a political party, and then you will, get to the top position, and then you will be into the system of, election based on generating resources, money. So the most, resources you have and money, so the most likely is for you, to secure or to be in power. So I think that Malians today, they just dream of a system where we finish with, what they've been knowing for the past 3 decades. So if we talk about a solution to that, I think the solution to that is to have a kind of solid governance, and solid governance is established only by solid institutions. So this is why when people say, okay, we want military, we want civilians. So some will say, we are all Malian here. So civilians actually means to them just continuing the same business. Yeah. So they do think that the all discussion about military civilians, the length of the transition, is just to them a way or for a strategy for some the same politicians to come back again into the game, as we have seen in 2012. So when they say the military, and you could see the social media, there is a lot of stuff coming again on Jerry Rawlings from Ghana. Yeah. So the military, the M5 youth, and a lot of people are saying, okay, what we want actually, if we have to choose a pattern, is just like the pattern of Ghana. So having military coming, cleaning up, and establish solid institution on which we can actually base a new democracy. I think that the whole debate is about how do we, as Malian, reinvent our democracy? Mm-hmm. How do we, through this transitional period, come to a consensus? Because you are using the word consensus, and be also bold enough to come with really solid criteria for people that will be, to which we will invest our trust, and that will, in their hand, will give actually the ruling of our country. I think that the question is there. So military, civilian, and it's all about, how do we project ourselves in the future? And I think definitely what the junta is doing now, I think it's a message that has been said that the Malians are going to be part of the process of the new Mali. But we need to be careful. I think that Salah mentioned it. We need to be careful. It's not just about the processes of inclusion, sitting around the table, but also this time we need to also look into some criteria and principles. Okay. I think that's really important.
The transition is really passionate in this conversation today, but before we get deeper in the transition process and who should participate or how, I would just take one step back about the ECOWAS. The ban, we had the military coup, we had all we can say about happening, what next, what the future is. But besides that, we have also the ECOWAS sanctions and bans. Yeah. And Mali is 100% part of ECOWAS and one of the founder countries, right? So we cannot forget, as we are being punished by ECOWAS, which is not actually true. And what do you think about that? The bans and sanctions will create more problems economically and politically. Also, what could be the consequences of such kind of bans, and what we should manage that? Because we are already in the fact we have a military coup, we have the military running through the CNSP, and so. What is your thought about that?
Before coming to your question, I just want to jump. You talk about civilian expectation. Yeah. So when you travel inside Mali, from the north, south, center, you can see a lot of differences. So also in Timbuktu, we used to say when Ban Ki-moon was the General Secretary of UN, he traveled to Timbuktu. When he arrived, he said, "Is here Timbuktu? Where are all the funds, the billions we are investing? Where are the money?" So it's like a kind of deception. So we need to investigate where the money we are investing, where the money stakeholders are investing in Mali, where those money are using. So this is a real problem. We need to fight again to come up with solution with the civilian expectation. It's allowed to dream. Yeah, there is a time to dream, and there is a time also to release our dream to come true. Now, what civilians need, it's access to school, drinkable water.
Education.
When even in Bamako, we don't have access to drinkable water. So if you go deep inside Mali, it's just a kind of deception. So we need to arrange those things before thinking about fighting corruption at the high level of the state. It's obvious that it's an important point. So coming back to your question, I think that ECOWAS must wake up, because putting sanction on Mali is very dangerous. Mali is already under sanction. As I told, since 2012, we are in an abnormal situation, and our economy became more and more weak. When ECOWAS put those sanctions on Mali, is to make us more weak again. We are already weak. We are landlocked. So ECOWAS just need to consider Malian, not considering the junta or maybe the former president. Yeah, see how we are living, how we got access to our funds. So it's not only against Mali. You have
excuse me.
I'm coming. You have European
about the
Union,
same question.
You have United Nations, you have African Union. All those people are working on Mali. So the sanction is getting on everybody. Not only me, you, Berethe, Fatima. No, not the public. It's on Malian stakeholder. So ECOWAS just need to double check and see how it can end those kind of sanctions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming back to the same question, because for me it is not about ECOWAS, because Mali signed it knowing that if this happened, this is a protocols, right? So what should be done right now? Because Mali has violated one of the protocols, like the military jumped in civilian in the election process. So now, instead asking ECOWAS to rethink about the process, maybe when you say ECOWAS to wake up, because we have this conversation, a lot of people thinking ECOWAS is working to maintain president on power, instead anticipate on what may happen if they violate the constitution or so and so. So what could be the process maybe for the future of ECOWAS itself?
I totally agree that we should respect, just 1 second. I totally agree that we should respect the rules, the protocol of ECOWAS. But ECOWAS can monitor the situation. We are in a dangerous crossroad. It should take time to come to normal. So ECOWAS should give, maybe, that's my own point of view, should give a deadline. If change not come, can put sanction. But going directly to sanction, from my point of view, that's very dangerous for us.
Fatih?
Yeah, I think I'm going to add something about that. I'm very happy that you mentioned the ECOWAS sanction, because I think actually what ECOWAS is doing is illegal. It's not in the protocol, and any protocol of ECOWAS sanctioning, putting economical sanction on the population. Even the Vision 2020 of ECOWAS say that it's going to be ECOWAS for the people, less for the states. And in that same protocol, they mention there is no written article that mention we are allowed to put an economic sanction on population. So what ECOWAS is doing is actually even illegal, first of all.
Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, you can go back and you can go check the protocol of ECOWAS. There's no on any
economic?
of the. Yeah, there's no mention of economic sanction. They can sanction the people who did the coup d'etat. They have the right to sanction that because they went against the protocol of good governance, but they cannot sanction the population. So what they're doing is actually illegal. So, and I don't think it's right to do an illegal action on a country which is already economically weak, which is going through terrorism, which is going through insecurity. So, the fact that Mali signed a protocol does not make sense to me, saying that we should maintain the good government because they have signed that. So I think that ECOWAS actually should add on the protocol of text where they should actually sanction a president who is doing bad government. It's very important. It's very important.
Anticipation
process. With ECOWAS, the Vision 2020 is ECOWAS for people. They should be able to also sanction a president which is badly running a country.
For example, the same we are seeing
so that
around Mali.
Yeah.
Where we've seen the same process taking place day after day.
Day after day.
And we are sure the end will be the same thing happen in Mali.
In Mali, exactly. So that we will avoid a constant coup d'etat happening a lot. Because right now it's our institution that are like in terms of nobody, we don't value our institution anymore because with a group of people are unhappy about the ruling of the country, they can just take guns and take over power. So we should find a way to solid house, my brother says, to find a way to solid our institution so that we can avoid this. So waking up the day they have took the president to just write a paper, say that, well, okay, we have economic sanction against the country. It's not a way to do it. The way to do it is like, how can we help Mali get out of this crisis right now?
Okay, I recall ECOWAS is the West Africa community. So as Mali is part, about 15 countries and economical and social and governance thing. So I'm turning to you, thought about this.
Yeah, actually, I would like to take the ECOWAS question, under a different perspective. Mm-hmm. We had a chance after the coup to, call for a discussion on the role of ECOWAS. within, managing the situation, the crisis in Mali. And I think that Mohamed was there. You were there. Yeah. And as guest, we had Ambassador Boli. And you also came with the ambassador, representative from Nigeria and also the representative from Ghana. And we had the chance to have also Ambassador Buyoya, around this table, just to share views and comments on what's happening. Beyond the fact that, the procedures and rules at ECOWAS, where there is an unconstitutional, change, of power, they have to actually automatically come with some kind of measures. I think that the Mali case fall under this purview. Yeah. But what's interesting to us, under the perspective or pure analysis, because we are also a research center, is that, what is really the effect of those kind of action? I think that the question is it the action against the states, or the statesmen, or is against the state, against Malian. But we can also take the reflection even further to say what has been so far the impact. Because from usually what's happened in the coup d'etats is that the traditional coup d'etat, you kill the president, you imprison him, or you actually send him to exile. This is actually the traditional kind of stuff. So what we have mentioned as the military assistance to transition, what we are seeing now is that there is a kind of, the softening the action of the military. Because what's happening now in Mali is the military going to the president, taking the president to them, but negotiating with him so that he resign. I think this is actually how this can be a fruit of pressure that has been put from the international community. And we can also consider that the way the rest of the thing are evolving, that 2 days ago, the president has been released, he traveled. But letting the president go out, the very junta went to negotiate again with ECOWAS, saying that, okay, you will be the guarantor somehow. We leave the president, the ex-president go out, but you will sign a paper that if the justice from Mali will need him, will bring him back here. I think that we can have a different perspective on the role of, ECOWAS. But something that is important, Moussa, also to mention, is that ECOWAS is not coming like a monolithic and block to Mali. You have seen all the discussion around what kind of sanction, is it a blockade to be put on Mali? And there are lines of divide. We can clearly see that some are panicking somehow because of their own internal political situation, like Cote d'Ivoire, like Guinea. We know that Guinea-Bissau and Burkina Faso and even Senegal have a different stand on the Mali file. So, yeah. I think that as a member of the community, the Malian can also consider that having a player like ECOWAS take us in a formula where we have a game of give and take. We have a community that have, leverages to put pressure on us. They say, okay, you are a landlocked country. If you don't do X, Y, Z, we can do this and that. But we also can say, okay, you have seen actually, it's like a take and gives. The Malians say, okay, we are not going to send cattle to your countries. Maybe this will be advertently playing against our own business. But I've seen also heard conversations where the Malians were in position to say, okay, you guys from ECOWAS, you want to block our country, but don't forget that we have common and shared problems of security. We have terrorism here. And most of those countries, from Senegal, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, and Burkina Faso, all those countries are represented on the Malian soil today. That are deploying troops in Mali. For example, when it comes to Cote d'Ivoire, it's like 600 Ivorian soldiers that we have in Mali. So I think that the Mali also, or the junta, or whatever you call it, the Mali states, have also today some leverages in terms of discussion with ECOWAS. I think that let us consider that there are rules that are there, and that we have also ways of negotiating, not negotiating the rules, but also negotiating how to get out of this crisis. I would finally add to that, I think, some comments that we went, that the head of ECOWAS, when sharing with us, he said that he's doing some kind of backstage diplomacy. And I think that we are discussing what the big conferences of head of state, but we have also small diplomacy that are play every day, where people are actually trying to really solve the situation here. And I'm convinced that the stand from the junta, the discussion civilian military, the length of the transition also somehow the external international pressure that is coming from ECOWAS. And you know that all the organizations today, the AU and the UN, are aligned behind the ECOWAS. Something actually are factors of contribution. I'm not going to judge them positive or negative, but factor of contribution, to the way to solving the crisis.
The problem. Yeah. Thanks so much. This is a really huge bridge between military analysis and also civilian, as you have the both parts.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
And not to forget that I think that the head of ECOWAS told us that they themselves are trapped, between the Anglophone and Francophone philosophy of power. Because in the Anglophone countries, there are in the provisions of their constitution resignation. There are ways to get a president out of the power. But in the Francophone system, you don't have anything. I think that the very ECOWAS people that are coming, to assist us, you have this line of divide where they don't know how to do with Francophone business, definitely.
Yeah, this is a big challenge. Even the language barrier also is one. So the next question from our panelists will be around what transition do you think for Mali do you have or imagine for Mali right now? Pardon. But before that, I'm turning to the audience if we have questions for what we've been saying. So the panelists can take your questions before we move forward. So the floor is whoever wants to ask question. If you can be brief. And by the way, thanks so much, Mr. Cisse from the US Embassy for joining us. Thanks. Yeah, questions from, yes, I think there is a mic here. Can you join the mic, please? If I can come there. Yeah, I think
we can hear.
Yeah, please.
We can hear you.
No, I think. Do you need the mic or is okay?
It's okay.
Okay. Maybe they want to get your picture. So can you? Okay.
Good morning, everybody. So this is. I'm Mr. Mamadou Tsapili. I'm a journalist, photographer, freelance in Bamako. Actually, my question is concerning these transitions talks that's going on today. It's open today, these national consultations, which will be going on up to the 12th. And do you think that Malians will come up to resolutions fitting in the ultimatum given by the ECOWAS members, which is the 15. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Tapili. Another question? Okay, please.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I am South Tilawa Sofana from AMP. Okay, I have a question for the panelists.
Okay.
What could happen in case what the military did in 18th of August didn't do? Okay.
What could happen? Okay. Great questions.
It's a great one.
How do you call this science?
Yeah. Okay. Another.
It's a branch.
Another question? Okay. We'll go with. Okay. We have.
What could happen with August 18 didn't happen?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Mariam Konate, student. My question is, can we take advantage of what ECOWAS is doing, like seeing what the sanction of ECOWAS as an advantage to take our responsibility?
Thanks so much. So I think we'll go with these two questions, the three questions, and then we'll come back. So who will start? Fatih?
Yeah, I mean, I can start, no problem.
Yeah,
that's a lot of pressure, though, but I can try.
I know you have the way.
Yeah, so I will start with the first question, asking about ECOWAS with the timeline that ECOWAS proposed and what is happening right now. And I think I have a very maybe individual view about that. And I was actually very surprised when I read the summary of the ECOWAS meeting when they have given a deadline for Mali up to 2015. And why I think that I don't think it's efficient. And I don't think we should put timing on when we should put on a transition. I think ECOWAS should have taken the decision after the national consultation. The national consultation would decide which kind of transition Malian people want, how long they want the transition to be. And ECOWAS should conform to that. That's my view. ECOWAS could conform to what the Malian population wants. If it was imposed by the gents, then ECOWAS could have reacted. But they have organized a national consultation from all over Mali to decide how the transition should look like. So ECOWAS should give a credit of trust to the Malian people to see, okay, how is 10, 11, 12 is going to look like? Are Malians going to get along? Are they going to decide like a transitional leader? And then from there, if they are unable to decide with a common agreement, then you can put sanction on them for this September 17. And I can guarantee you, maybe somebody can quote me on that after, ECOWAS will going to come back on the day they propose, they're going to propose another date again. I don't think that we should rush to put somebody as the head of the transition, because we have made a mistake in 2012. We have rushed the transition, and look at what happened right now. So I think that for this time, we need to do things differently. We need to try to see what we have done wrong in 2012 so that we avoid that happening right now. For that, we need a lot of time. We need a lot of consultation. We need for people to get along, we need the M5 movement with the gents. We need them to get along. We need all the Malians to have a common agreement so that we can put on who should be on the transition and how the transition should look like. The transition should talk about the security, the health, the education. So if we don't, the timing is not the most important, it's the content. What is in the transition, that is the most important thing. And I'm hoping that ECOWAS will go to that direction.
Yeah, about the same, what you mentioned, you don't think at certain point ECOWAS is pushing them, even through this national consultation, to say, guys, you should have this at the end of the process? Because this is something important, because if they don't take this position, as General mentioned, in terms of negotiation, and wait until the end of the process and say, okay, you have selected a military, but we don't want this. So this is another problem. But if we show them the direction, say at the end before 15, we know the process will end before the 15th. So it's going to be a little bit smart. And also, what you mentioned about 2012, yes, of course, we've been in the process not going deeper in the conversation. But now, from the 18th of August to now, we seem like not moving forward, like not having a clear what the junta itself wants for the transition, or what is the expectation from the transition. Because for me, now I'm participating in a conversation as well, right?
I know, now you're no longer moderating.
Okay.
Now you're...
Exactly, because something
I see that you're passionate about this.
Something interesting and passionate about what's happening, because they got the power illegally. And now to legitimate this fact, they need the participation of everyone. But they took the risk to be where they are right now. And now the fact is of course, negotiating with ECOWAS, but what you can like draw as a line, this is we as a junta getting the power, this is what we want to do. If we want a military to be, to lead the transition, this is the fact. If as a civilian, and then we will not be spending a lot of time according all the emergencies we have to work in this direction.
Yeah. I can just like few words on that.
Sure.
It's not about what the gents want, it's about what the Malian people want. So they cannot propose on Malian people what they want. So that's why the consultation is very, very important on what the transition should look like. And I don't think that the joint peace it's not that I'm defending them or I'm defending them. It's they were able to the coup d'etat was able to happen because there have been an ongoing socio-political crisis, protests on the streets that happened. So they just came to finish ongoing work that was happening.
Maybe you can continue with the second question about what could happen if the coup d'etat didn't happen.
I mean, that's a very interesting question because I feel I never really thought about what could happen is that there would be an ongoing... So there would be an ongoing protests, and in my analysis, at the end, there will be a coup d'etat at the end. Maybe not on August 18, but at some point there will be a coup d'etat because the ongoing protest was continuing on the streets. So it was predicted.
Okay, Salaha,
I just want to try to respond to the question. From my point of view, she said that it's not a problem of the junta. It's not also a problem of ECOWAS. It's our problem, your problem. It's our problem. The solution will come from us, not from abroad. We will solve this problem among us. We are Malian. We know our problem. ECOWAS can help us, but ECOWAS doesn't know our problem. There was a time that we need ECOWAS in the past. We didn't see them.
This is interesting.
I'm coming to the points, please. So what I think that, and what I hope that the ongoing talk would be inclusive. Inclusivity is very important in this kind of situation. As I thought, we are in a dangerous crossroad, and we miss something that we need the most. What is this thing? Is the time. We don't have time. And somehow I can appreciate what ECOWAS is doing. It's like a kind of pressure to come back to normal situation. Somehow it's fine to put a pressure on Malian people, not on a junta, to come to normal situation. But the time we need, we don't have it. We need to go fast, because the problem is not from the coup. If we remember, we didn't have government several months ago. So it's not only from the coup. It's in the past we didn't. So I strongly believe, I'm optimist that Malian will come up with solution, and ECOWAS will accept the solution that Malian will decide. Who will lead the transition? The question should be answered by Malian. Not a civilian, not a military, but all Malian will give answer to this question. And
this is very important. Do you think the process is inclusive?
From my point of view, I have attended it, but there are some frustration. But people came to an agreement the last time, and the one who are still on today, before the beginning of this talk, I heard that there are also some point of disagreement. But my hope is that we come to a point, and Malians are very strong in resilience. We solved the problem of 1991. We solved the problem of 2012. We will solve this problem. It's a big problem. We will come up with solution. I'm sure.
It's interesting to be optimistic. But the thing, if we arrive to the same point after solving in 1991, in 2012, and we had the same thing happening, that means we solve the problems in the past.
That's why.
So now I'm coming. So you talk about the solution will come from Malians. So do you think Malians are feeling really part of the conversation? Because this is the most important thing. And today, from the view we have, as everything is already set. So this is just like the process, but the decisions are already made. This is kind of feelings. So do you think, as a journalist and a part of the population, Malians are feeling part of this consultation, as their voice are heard?
Okay, I will go very quick. What I think that some Malians are parts of the negotiation. We can get all Malian. Maybe some representative or some organization are part of the talk. Maybe we cannot be perfect. We cannot organize perfect talks. We need to organize talk, but it will never be perfect, and everybody will never agree. But we need to do with people who agree and try to convince people who do not agree to come up with a solution. Excellent. This is my point of optimism. I'm very, very optimistic that we will find a solution.
Perfect.
Those people who aren't happy about the situation, I strongly recommend to talk, because I don't support the junta, but they show humility in what they are doing. They try to talk to everybody. Maybe they will never be able to talk to everybody, but they show openness. They talk to people. They talk to people. So this show that they are taking the problem serious and they're looking for a solution. I think this is maybe is not the best way. It's a good way
to start.
To start.
Okay, let's hope, as you say, to have a content and also the way and the process to do it. So I'm turning to General Berethe about what could happen if the coup d'etat did not happen in August 18.
Yeah, actually it's a good question, and I do think that this is actually the same kind of question that these military guys ask themselves. What could happen if we don't do anything? Actually, when we look at the pronostics and also projections, and you call it a perspective, I think that there were like mainly three different scenarios that were on the table. The number one scenario is that the streets were pushing for the president to resign. So the president just obey and say, okay, I do resign. There is too much pressure, and you don't like me, I'm not going to be your president anymore. So then this is actually number one scenario that could have happened. The number two scenario is the president says, okay, I'm strong enough because I've been building up my forces for the past 7 years. We are fighting against terrorism. We have a lot of armored vehicles. We have special forces and we have this and that. And the mob you could see in the Place de l'Indépendance, we have actually the means to crack down on them, and then we suppress this demonstration. Then we don't know what will happen next, but there are situations and configuration what those things happen, and it can be a solution. And then we had a number three line of reflection, and this is actually seeing the military jump into the process. And this was basically the worst case scenario, actually the nightmare. I will tell you why. Why a nightmare? Because when you look at the present, you need to look into the mirror, back in the rear back mirror, because what's actually the country has seen and witnessed, before the new cycle of democracy, election of IBK and stuff, it was a coup d'etat. And this coup d'etat was characterized by what? By rank and file soldiers, coming, overwhelming somehow their own hierarchy. So there is no officer, no top sitting officer that were in power anymore. You have the corporal and also the non-commissioned having a captain as the leader, and just say, okay, we don't accept the situation and we want the country to change, those kind of stuff. So it was actually a nightmare thinking that people that are today deployed to fight against terrorism, and people that are also been building up and trained for these same purposes that are sitting in Bamako, because we have, differently from 2012, we have more robust and functional forces, in 2020 in Bamako and surroundings. So it would be a nightmare to see those people coming and jump into the process and say, okay, we do some coup d'etat. I think this was number one. And the number two, we need also to be mindful of what happened in 2012. Because what happened in 2012, when there is a coup d'etat, there is also counter coup d'etat. Yeah. And there is also the fight against the different colors of beret. You had the beret rouge, the beret vert, and those kind of stuff. So it was our own, kind of threat to say, oh, if it's happened in the city here, that people get to fight each other, because the beret today, the beret chocolate one, beret marron, are for the president, and the beret rouge have to advance against the beret vert and those kind of stuff. So definitely the scenario would be, letting the country slide into some kind of civil war. This actually what could happen if 18 August didn't happen. So it's really important to come again into on what's happened exactly, because today we don't know exactly. Maybe there is somebody sitting in this room who knows exactly what happened. Me, I don't know. What happened exactly?
Please, if you do have, tell us. Thanks so much.
So what happened exactly? The signs we have seen is that somehow the colonels that stepped this coup just, I think, made the same analysis as I've just developed now, to say, okay, if we do something that will take together all those factors, maybe we'll end up into a civil war. What we have seen is that those people that are sitting at the top of, the very operational forces, we had the sense that they talk to each other, and they said they have something to do, horizontally in common. And this actually, that's reflected in the junta. You have like 4 and 5 people sitting there, but there are just equal men sitting around the same table. And I think that's something that they've taken, into consideration. And they seem also to have taken into consideration that this our military has been, it's not dated back 7 or 8 years, but has been politicized, deeply politicized since the inception of democracy. Because two people that came under the banner of democracy, they did think that it's really normal to everyone to think that if you have the power and you really want to rule a country, you need to have the military by your side. And those people came against the regime of Moussa Traoré. That was actually a militarized regime. So what they come is, you call me an expert on SSR. We do studies on that. Every country has its own specificity. And the specificity of Mali is that the politicians from the 90s, they really were successful in inventing new strategies on how to take the military under their control. And this goes through, the promotion, this goes through recruitment, and this goes also through creating lines of affiliation and clientelism, within the military. And we are really worried that if, as you were asking, the military had to jump like the worst scenario into, the arena. At the end of this process, they will come also under the banner of different politicians, that have been infiltrating the military and that are actually concretely influencing them, to get to their, their objective. And you could, I think, as Malian also say that some of these politicians are still, active and agitating because this is the coup d'etat that was successful, but there were, I think, different projects of coup d'etat and engineered by politicians somehow. And I think that the scenario that we had is not the worst case scenario. It's one scenario that's happened. And I think that we have signs of hope, seeing those people, to see people coming to discuss and also to get to the consensus and talk about the future of Mali. And I think that this is the last point, is the future of our country.
Thanks so much, Shah. I'm turning to Fati. The question was what... The future. The transition now. What transition do you think, and in terms of gender perspective?
Okay, but I mean, since I feel like we talked a lot about the transition, obviously the transition has to be inclusive. But I think I will maybe touch more base about the future I want for Mali.
No, this is the last question.
Oh, that's okay.
The question is exactly what kind of transition do you imagine for Mali? You've been talking about different aspect of it, but now what kind of transition do you imagine? Not what ECOWAS wants, not what Z and Y want, but what do you
I'm imagining a very smooth transition, a transition that is very inclusive, a transition that the voices of all the Malians are heard, the needs of the Malian are also put into consideration. So what I'm not hoping for a violent transition at all. So I'm really hoping that after these 3 days of national consultation, as the Malian, we will be able to agree on one thing so that we pick up very quickly our country.
Same question?
Oh, I will be very short.
And also social perspective?
So I just need, what I want is an acceptable transition. Seriously, also with inclusivity, a transition which will be accepted by Malian, majority of Malian, and a transition which will hand over quickly the power to a democratic elected regime, and also a transition which may do some reforms. So I really hope that the transition will be as short as possible. As the military, the junta said at their first apparition on television, they say that it will be the most short. So junta should respect their speech.
What they say. Thanks so much. In terms of security reform and also transition, because we're now in a very specific and particular moment of our country, and we've seen the army being a lot in the conversation. So according to you and your experience, what could be the most reforms we should undertake during this transition in terms of...
Actually, my view is that we can have go through wishful kind of thinking. Everybody actually today is dreaming of a bright future for Mali, and this bright future will be get its foundation into this transitional period. And I'm a little bit, maybe I'm not that much, I cannot say positive or optimistic, but sometimes when I look at the long list of risks that are pending, I think that we need also to be somehow careful. And among those risks, you have the political risk, because we can make comparisons. We can have parallels with situations that happen in other countries. We have seen what happened in Burkina Faso, and the way the Burkinabe were smart enough to come up with some kind of mix of civilian and military architecture, to just negotiate the way out, for the transition. But we also need to look, at what's happened, not that much recently in Sudan, because people tend to forget that even if the military had to come and finalize the process was ignited and started by civilians. And those civilians themselves were pushed or ignited by some kind of clerical. And I think that those things are really important to look into. So today we are at the juncture in the sense that is really, we need to go through analysis of what the needs of those people are, the real needs of that talk about governance and transformation. But we also need to look into what's happening in this country. And this was mentioned here, I think, by Fatih. 10 years ago or 8 years ago, we lost like 25% of the territory, but today it's almost 75% of the territory. So the security risks are really, are here. And this security risk comes with a huge international presence. So how do we talk about the future, about the transition, if we don't talk also about, terrorism and the presence of and the fight against, among themselves, Al-Qaeda today opposed to Daesh on our territory. And then you have the center where the communities are opposed. On top of that, we have international intervention where Barkhane that is present. And we have the huge international UN presence that is in our country. I think that for the solutions are known, because at the very beginning of the problems, they made a lot of assessment. They know that the security sector were broken. They know that people, the way they were managing those stuff, were mismanaged. And we know also the cure for those problems. But what makes it tricky and very difficult for the future is really to factor all the complications and problems, the complex problems that are here on the ground. And the complex problems is, you have a political demand, you have social demand, but you have also a huge security, security demand that is here. Yeah. I think this, though taking into account those things, can help us in a healthy manner, think about the future. And I don't know what's happening today, like this public consultation and stuff, if those consultation will really be helpful, covering those dimensions. Because this was also mentioned before, the sense that is given to the Malian is that there is Bamako and you have an empty space that is Mali. Because what's happening in Bamako here, a transition, a coup, can be considered as an opportunity for a community and for a country. And this is why they're mentioning General Rawlings. They think that there will be like a messiah coming and that will, reset the button. Yeah. And then we'll have a new country. But also the reality is that you have a conflict between the interests of the group and the interests of individuals. And those individuals that are really tooled and they have the resources and they have the know-how to, hijack processes. They have the know-how to infiltrate and manipulate processes as well. I think that the country is really today, to me, this is my view, at a very kind of volatile and, fuzzy, step of its evolution.
Yeah, thanks so much. Before the final comment of my panelists, I will ask if we have two last questions or comment. I've already seen a hand. Oh. Okay, I will break my own rule. So this is not part of the transition, right? Okay, Mr. Cisse.
I want to thank the panelists. I'm just speaking on my behalf, on the US Embassy.
Sure.
And I have 3 questions.
3 questions.
The first question, how do you see, when you look deep to the situation, how do you call this? Is it a revolution, or that ended by pushing the president to resign from his position, or is it a military coup? As a follow-up question, what can be the role of M5 RFP in the entire process, because they are the ones who has initiated this revolution, and what can be the role of military, this MAD, like the military assistant to democracy, CNSP. And we have, by experience, we have seen Moussa when he came to power. By coup d'etat, he stayed like for 23 years. Amadou Touré came also. He went and he came back. And we see Sanogo also stayed like until they push him. So, should this CNSP stay and conduct the transition, or you think they should leave? My last question is, how do you see the religious leaders' role in this transition, and what role can the religious leaders can play in the Malian political arena?
Wow.
Because we see that
That's a lot of questions.
most of people go to Nyoro, they come back. Sema go to Simamudiko. And all those people, all the stakeholders, they move, they go to see the different religions. So what role should they play, or they could play?
Thanks so much, Mr. Cisse. This is like 10 questions combined in 3 or 4.
1 million.
Thank you.
$1 million dollar.
Okay.
$1 million
Okay,
dollar
thank you
question.
so much. I'm Mohamed Doumbia. So I also have a few points / questions. Quickly, talking about future. Do you guys think that we have enough projection in everything we are doing today as Malians? Because we really want to discuss the future, but are we discussing the future, the upcoming future right now for us, or are we discussing the future for our children? So that's my first question. And as transition really means going from a point A to a point B, do you really know today where we are being transported to, where we really want to go to? That's my second question. And as Mali always had laws and texts, but the implementation was the major issue, because we really have laws that could help us avoid situations like that today. Are we really going to work on new laws, a new constitution, and having the same implementation problem again, so leading us to the same situation again, or are we going to change that? So my last question is, shouldn't we think beyond our problems, our actual problems, and work for the future generations? Thank you.
I'm impressed by the number of questions.
That's a lot.
Seba, is one question or like
Moussa will find a way to combine them.
three-tier one
Moussa will
question?
find a way to combine the questions. That's his role.
I am Seba, certified training professional for École de Maintien de la Paix. 231 years since 1789. The USA, France opened the way to democracy. And still, there are a lot of grievances. It's malfunctioning most of the time. But the problem is we Africans, especially in Mali, we have cloned what they have done. Our democracy, our so-called democracy, looks like a cloning of their system. So I want you to take me as the seller in the great market, because in our country, only 20% of us are educated. Call me the farmer in Baginda or in Gao, etc. What solid institution, what good governance, what government itself will speak to me? How, from my position, I may view this. That's my point. So my question is very simple. Is democracy a good fit for us?
It's a good one.
It's for Fatima.
No, why?
A lot of questions.
Sorry, I got the microphone.
And you took the floor.
This is called a coup. No?
This is a coup. Assistance to
military assistance to transition.
I'm from the peacekeeping school, École de Maintien de la Paix. I'm the acting director of communication. I would like to ask, are we really ready as Malians for the right leader?
Voilà. Très bien.
Because I think that the issue comes from us, the Malians. If we get the right leader, the way how we can get to the right change we are calling for, we need a good leader, but are we really ready to accept him and accept those rules?
Okay, thanks so much. Ladies?
Otherwise, I would have been mad. Hi, everybody. I'm Aissa Taba. I'm a women's gender and sexuality studies. So I'm a little bit sad that we didn't go deep into women's role in this whole thing. Because if you remember in 2012, things started with women going in the streets. In 1991, it was the same thing. So whenever there is protest, you see women, and MSengs, you see that Kajatusi is the one who was the only woman, I can say, figure who was in the public, but the rest was among the protesters. So I would like to know, you as our panelists and people who know more, how do you see women involved? When I say women involved, I don't mean the UN's language as gender mainstreaming and stuff like that, but I mean like what they can bring in the table. Because even when you look at the news, you see the room, you just see men. And we agree that when you are not there, your view are not represented, because as males, you cannot see our point of view. So how do you see women involved, and how you see them bringing a change to this whole thing? That's my one question. And the other one is about the future we want. My brother has asked a question about religious leaders. So my worry is, how do you see the country change when people know, when the people who will come in power, the civilians know that always religious leader will have the power. They will be the one who will have the last say. In 2009, Mahmoud Digo and his people went out to change the code and everything. And now again, the coup started with them. How do you see a democracy, a future Mali, when people know that when religious leaders are not happy, they can overthrow everything that was built? How do you see a future like that? And my last question is about justice. We know IBK and his son particularly frustrated Malians, poor Malians, who were like, how they can use our money for their own goals. And now they are getting out of the country, no justice. We are not talking. People are like, let's forgive. How can we move from corruption when people know that I did that all these 7 years and then I get away without justice? How do you think we can go beyond that in the future Mali we are building? Thank you.
Thanks so much. She asked the question. Okay, just before she started, I just want to be sure we had equal gender balance here, but the last one was a female. She did not show up.
She don't show up, yeah.
So we had 2 women and 2 men, just to be sure it starts here. Okay, Madam.
Thank you very much. I have various questions, but I'm limited to one for your sakes. My name is Giorgia Nicatore. I'm the program manager for Interpeace, an international peace building organization that's based in Geneva, but I'm based here in Bamako. We've had various of our strategic partners, so European governments mostly, come to us and ask us for our analysis and also our recommendations. We're kind of disappointed that some of sort of the major leaders, notably the EU, have now followed the lead of ECOWAS. But from your points of view, 2, 3 main recommendations that you would want us also to put forward. Thanks.
Thanks so much for your questions. They're really interesting and really nice one. I will try to summarize, considering the time allowed to us. I think the first questions, as Cissé mentioned about how are we going to call what happened as a coup, and the role of the different stakeholders. I would not say MRFP or the junta, and also the question of Doumbia. What kind of future do we want in terms of projection? Is for us, for our children, etc. Also about the laws and their implementation, the materials we have and how do we implement them. And I think this question will meet the problem of justice and impunity, and the women participation in the process, and also the right leader, which weight and religious role, and also the recommendation for Madame Georgia. So yeah.
Okay.
Mohamed?
I'm very impressed.
So you can take broadly what I mentioned.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I'm very impressed about the question you guys asked. I so helpful, and I'm very sorry I didn't take notes because I don't have stuff for that. But I will just try to summarize, to get some answers. First of all, what I think about the role of stakeholders. So I will say the role of Malian in ending this crisis is always inclusion. And we don't need to focus on the junta, on M5 RFP, on religious leader. We need to focus on Malian. We need to focus on Mali. What Malian wants and what each of us can do to get out of this crisis. From my point of view, this is the most important question we must ask ourselves to come to a response or a result. And the result we need quickly is to set up the transition. To set up the transition, because when we get a solution to that, we have moved forward, one step forward. So this is very important for me to and Cisse has told about the religious leader. No, it's a the role. According to me, it's a kind of interest, it's a kind of influence. Everybody is following his interests. And on the other part, everybody is playing on his influence. Why M5 RFP need Mahmoud Dicko? Because from my point of view, it's because of his influence. Largely, M5 RFP is composed by politicians. And you do agree with me that politicians don't have the capability today to mobilize. They failed. So Mahmoud Dicko has this possibility to fail. So M5 RFP is using his influence. And why also the junta try to be in touch with the religious leader, M5 RFP? Because they need also to show that people support them. So it's like a kind of war of leadership and influence. That's my own analysis, my own point of view. So are we ready? The question of Mr. Ba, are we
ready for a good leader?
For a good leader, I think we must be ready, because the time is playing against us. If we are not ready, we will be in the same mistakes, because all the change we try to make, I think we weren't ready. That's why we came to those points. We have to be ready.
I'm joining his question as well. Are we ready for democracy?
We have to be ready for any kind of regime we want. Any kind of regime we want. We want to be ready. How to be ready? It's to accept the rules and to accept the consequences that goes with the regime we want, Malian wants. So I really believe that we have to be ready. Maybe we are not ready. I don't know. I'm ready, but I don't know
Are you ready?
I don't know. I'm ready. So okay. I think everybody is ready here. That's why we are here. And it's very important. Okay, so we need to be ready. That's very important for me. For what? For change.
No, I mean, just a little bit organizing this.
The change of the system. When I mean the system, not the democracy. Maybe our attitude as Malian, our attitude, our way to do things, and also to put pressure on our leaders. We have to keep in mind that we are the one who give the power to our leader. If they are not able to do what we want, we will chase them. We have this power. We are a people. We are strong people. We have this power.
And this is what happened.
This is what happened.
To make them more accountable.
Somehow. But we can also chase leader without a coup. We can do that also. That's the best way from my point of view.
And first elect them also without taking money from politicians.
Yes, this is about maybe another question. What we need is a new Mali that a poor American, a poor trader who is living far, maybe in Arawan, in Kidal, in Kenedugu, have the same treatment in front of the justice with a minister. It's very important. Equality, fairness in the justice. Okay. And also we need an administration who treats you the same way he treats me, all Malian.
Yeah.
And this, we need also a Mali which when, when a policeman or when you have a problem, you don't need a court to solve. We need to follow the rule. That's very important for Malian to come to change. Citizenship. Yeah. So we need a lot of things. That's why the question is very important. Are we ready? We must be ready. We don't have choice.
Thanks so much.
If we don't be ready, we will not get a change.
Thanks so much. I'm turning to the Madam Fati about the question of inclusion of women and the role women should play.
I don't have a choice. I have to answer to that question. I'm sorry, my sister. Actually, I put that on my notes as part of the feature I want. So I guess I'm going to kind of touch base on that. We cannot, the role of women is more than crucial. It's very, very, very important. And we cannot really solve the problem of Mali without including the women in the process, because the women are the key core of holding the country together. They are the one who raise the leaders who are leading the country. They are the mothers of terrorists. They are the mothers of armed groups members. They are the mothers of presidents. So their voice are very, very important in the house and in the public sectors. So that's why I think like for us, we need to really include women. It's very, very like carefully, because you cannot include women with at a very educational level already. It's missing. Like how many young women are out of schools? So that's why I think that it's very, very important. As the feature I put it that we need to have young women, young girls access to good quality education. We have noticed that a lot of young girls drop out of schools in high school because they have to get married. So there is a lot of like our way, traditional practices, cultural practices that we have to check into that as well. We shouldn't force young women to get out of school, to go get married and stay home, because their voices are very, very important. Their experiences are very, very important. We also need to include women involvement in the public administration. It's very, very important. We cannot take decision about you when you're not there. So you have to be at the decision-making table. So the future government who is coming, they have to make sure that they actually include women at every decision-making table. That I know that in most of the decision-making table, I will find myself becoming the only woman in the room, and they will be like, yeah, I know she's gonna be talking about women. It's not even yesterday somebody mentioned, yeah, no, she said there's a woman name missing here, so she's gonna. Yeah, I'm here for that. There's a reason why I'm a young woman in this room. I will make sure that the voices of young women are heard. So you have to include them at all the process. So if you don't have a woman at the decision-making table, it will pass by, because they think that there's a lot of other problems out there that is more important than the women's problem. What they don't understand is that these women have a very important impact on all these leaders that they are trying to convince, they are trying to have peace agreement with. The last word will come with the women. Even women, that's why I think that women's inclusion on the mediation is very, very important. You will see that women selling mangoes on the streets in different regions of Mali, they have a very good contact with most of the rebel groups, armed groups. They know them. They talk with them. They cook for them. They can be used in terms of intelligence services If you use women intelligence hub, we can solve most of the problems here in Mali because they can get a lot of information for us here as well. So for that, we need to include them, but we are mostly, unfortunately, excluded. We are all happy about the quota, the gender quota, in terms of we went from, I even wrote an article about it, we went from 9% to 14%. Obviously, we should get to 30 to 50. That's when we know that women's voices are listened, they are heard. We go to school just like them. We need to empower them. So that's my advice is that we need to include women at all levels, from the lowest to the highest level.
Yeah. I support that.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have a choice. My wife is in the room. So.
Is in the room. Okay. Okay. Actually, my take on all the things that have been said. We're talking about the future. We're talking about transition, and I think that we specifically, when we talk about transition, is really to transit us, to take us from a situation that was not desired to a situation that is desirable. And I think that this is also a little bit tricky because we don't know how much time we do need and how much resources, ingredients we need, to go through those kind of period. And I think that we can just put our focus on what the future is about. The future is about the vision. And the vision today has been really formed, from what happened a couple of months ago, where we have seen people uprising, saying that this country is not well governed, that we need, what the Malians want to see is a better governed country. I think that we can start from there. Our vision is that we want to have a country that is actually well governed. A good governance talks about and covers, a political good governance. It means that, a good electoral, process. It talks about a healthy life in terms of politics. We don't want, as a Malian, to see that our member of parliaments are just sitting in what they call the hemicycle, just because they've been paying like 30, 35 million and CFA, and they will spend the whole legislature to go back and see how to fetch more money to just compensate themselves, through influence trafficking and all those kind of stuff. And I think that we definitely do want to see better governance in the sector of security. So it's really fundamental to a country that security really key in the sense that the people want to see and reflect themselves in the security apparatus. What has been happening so far is that maybe we have a gentleman here in uniform. He is a police officer recruited just because he knows people in the police, senior people that can recruit him. Or he has some people that have some influence, or somehow we have even rumors saying that we are from this part of our society where they say, okay, you need to pay to get access to those stuff. I think that there are a lot of security problems in our country today that can be dramatically changed if we change some paradigms in terms of the shift of paradigm in how do we liaise with our own population, how do we get them their voice, but also get their image in terms of to reflect them into our forces. I think that can change a lot of stuff. And good governance definitely in the area of economy, because I think that a lot of people are frustrated today. It's just talking about opportunities. I go to school, I came out, I have a diploma, but I don't have access to job. I don't have access to job, but because jobs are not created. Jobs are not created because the justice system, all these things are linked. Because, even if you have good idea, you go abroad, you get money, you come back in the country, your idea, your business is going to be killed by somebody just because he is in power. He went to, law school, and he can actually rule the country his own way. He will say, okay, I don't want this business to be here. He doesn't think that you will come and create like 10, 20, or 50 jobs for people. And good governance, definitely, I'm not going to go, down the line of all the things that need to be covered. But definitely, the objective of good governance is to benefit to the population. The state is here to serve the population. And I think that the root causes of the problem we are talking about today is, the divorce between what should be the state, serving a few or serving, the majority and the big bulk of the population. I think that if we bring in good governance, we can actually somehow find a solution, filling this vacuum. We're talking about security problem, terrorism and stuff. And the terrorism, look at the center. What's happened? Look at the north. Marginalization. At the center, marginalization. somehow it's not marginalized because of the color of your skin. It's just marginalized because the states come with people that are supposed to be serving justice on behalf of the state and on behalf of the people. But they are not able to do it, but just do it just behalf of their own interests. And people are rejecting that. They say, we don't want to see this, we don't want to see this continue. And I think that we need actually the transition, lay the foundation to reflect about those stuff and how do we change those stuff. And finally, all those stuff that are good in terms of conceptual way. We need vision, good governance and stuff. All those stuff need to be supported by a solid and strong, we said institution, but just name it, it's called rule of law. If there is rule of law, it means that everybody abide by the law, everybody are equal, before the judge and the law, and this is called the rule of law. If we have rule of law, I think that good governance actually will naturally come and everything will stem down from this. And I do think that definitely the question of women, the question of minorities, marginalized and stuff, I think all those stuff are automatically going to be covered because we have laws here that say that, at decision-making level, we need to see like 30% of women sitting at the table. But who's taking this into consideration? Even yesterday, I need to mention, I'm here not talking as a general or a military. I'm not a member of a junta. I'm here to represent a research center that is called CARES, a Centre d'analyse de recherche de l'espace aéro-sahélien. So this is actually a research center. This is in my peacekeeping training school. Even yesterday, we were facilitating some kind of interaction and discussion between, maybe some are familiar to the name Fatima Ansar. That is a consultant with Norwegian embassy. She used to be one of the senior officer with UN Women. And she just came to us because we have a gender program in our school. She said, oh, you guys, how can you help us? For the consultation of tomorrow and the forthcoming days to have this, I cannot say this law respected, but at least to have some or have more women sitting at the table. And we have a colleague that is called Aja Samake. So Aja was working yesterday with Fatima, trying to find a way to get to people that are sitting in Kati and the committed organization. So then, some or more women should be invited and seated, at the consultation table. And sometimes, we have laws. This is a right, but we don't know how to go with it, in terms of implementation. And if we want good governance, we have a vision on what type of country we want in the future, whatever the future, near future, long future, and we definitely know all those things to be supported and consolidated by rule of law.
Thanks so much. You've heard by yourself. I forgot to tell you he's a general of army, but as he mentioned, he's not here as a general, as an expert on security reform and also CARES, as he mentioned. Just before we got the last final comment, I just want to add something about which is really important. When we take back what's happening in Colombia right now, you can see since like 60 years, Colombia has been through an armed conflict between the FARC and the government, and how they are arriving to solve the problem. And even the FARC is, silencing the guns. Why? Because they got the right persons around the negotiation tables. That means it's not getting people around the negotiation or consultation, the ones who live from the conflict. This is very important. We have kind of person, he mentioned it, since 1991. I'm not putting fingers on people because they're making their live from the conflict and the conflict situation. So they would not be the solution providers, but how we can get the victims, the ones who are victims of bad governance every day, how we can get them around the table so they can speak. So then they know, because they are the victims. They are the ones that are suffering, the ones who are not going to school. They are ones who are dying in our hospitals. The president just flew to whatever to get healthcare program. So when we get the right persons in the table as Malians to represent and talk and decide, for sure we will get out of this problem and about the corruption, about impunity, about whatever concerning and the background of what we're living today. Because if we don't go deep inside the conversation, for sure in another 4 years or 5 years, we will be in the same transition position.
Relapse, yeah.
Because people will not be dying from hunger, knowing somebody else is having fun in our money. It was in Spain? Journalist?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. So I'm inviting my colleagues, my panelists. Thanks so much for your questions. Your final words before we take. The recommendation, Georgia, I did not forget it. Maybe you can have conversation with them later to go deeper in what they can propose as recommendations.
Oh, I'm very, very happy because I learned a lot from you guys and from the panelists. So I'm very happy, I'm very humbled. And I want to thank everybody. So I will get a dream like Martin Luther King did.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a dream. Yeah, that one day, all Malians will be treated fairly, equally in front of justice. I have a dream that in the short future, all Malians can travel to Kidal without negotiating anything. I have a dream that in the future, women can travel from the north to any part of Mali without any worry. I have a dream that Mali will get the Mali we want. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
You said it's not fair. I'm not speaking after her. It's not fair. I'm not as poetic as you are. Huh? I think I'm going to be very, very short as my brother since the time is running. I think I'm just hoping for that we will have a very smooth transition, that we will have a very roadmap which is very inclusive, that the voices of the minority, the voices of the women, the voices of everybody is in that roadmap. And I'm hoping that a roadmap that touch base on the security issue, the education, the health issue. And I'm hoping that the Malian will put the collective interest before the individual interests so that we can really move forward to a peaceful Mali.
Thanks so much. It was really meaningful. Your final comment?
Yes, my final comment is that actually just repeating what Fatih just said. All of us, we do hope that we have a smooth transition that will take us, to start navigating towards a desired future. And we actually do think it's really important that voice be heard, along this journey. And the voice of, you have mentioned of victims, and I think that is really to the point when you say the youth here are the victims. And I do think that we're talking about the political actors, stakeholders. And we do think that with the movement M5 and also what's happening today, we can see new figures. We can see also new faces actually, emerging, and that are showing us some kind of hope, saying that, okay, we are really mindful and conscientious in terms of we know the problems of our country, and also we have a little bit of idea of what should be the solution to this country. And I think this needs to be today encouraged. And I think that it's not just about the youth, it's also people that from the countryside. And we know sometimes we have really the huge impression is a really negative one that there is Bamako and there is Mali. And the people from Mali, they are suffering from insecurity, they are dying from, starving. And because people just didn't get to the field and do the farming because of security problems, and they don't know somehow desperately you cannot just move from one part of the country, as you say, Demba, from point A to point B, without taking the risk to be going under some attack, like improvised devices and all this kind of stuff. And my final comment will be on the religious actors, because I think we are a community and religion is part of our life. And some, used to just remind us that in our country we are, sometimes the figures vary, they say 90-95% of Muslims in this country. And we have established, since we say we have been independent states, that unfortunately was not able to respond to the demand. And I do think, and I'm really, as Malian, I think that I do share this with a lot of people, the religious actors are just filling some vacuum. And the vacuum that is there is expected that the state fill it. So then if going out of this transitional period, we come up with solid configuration by which we know the containers to me, the institutions we know the criteria to go there. And everybody, we have used the word consensus. In this country, unfortunately, we cannot get to any consensus. But this time, at least we find a common ground in terms of what should be the minimum criteria to be a member of parliament, to be a minister, to be this and that. And I think a lot of the vacuum will be filled. And the religious actors will not have that much role to play. The role will be in our social life. The role will be in our desire for a better afterlife. But definitely politics is all about getting ourselves organized to take care of our problems here. And I think that if we as a community we succeed putting into a framework by which we can solve and tackle the problems, and I think that the religious role will definitely diminish. And I think that what that can be on the list of the wishful list of going out of the transition to have a consensus about what should be the architecture to somehow organize our democracy and to put more good governance. This is actually my
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. This has been really a lot of takeaways from this first panel in English about what's happening in our country. My last words will be in direction to youth and women. A very wise man, President Obasanjo, used to say, the power and space is not, we don't give you that. You should go and grab it and take it. So that means you cannot sit at home, say, I'm a youth, because youth is not a skill, is an age. And being women is not being taken as granted in some way. We've seen women working, going hard, and get what they want. So in that way, we have our organization named Accountability Lab working in youth development, capacity building, and governance, transparency, combating corruption. So our doors are open. So feel free to make a quick stop and say hi, hello, and see what's happening there and how we can collaborate all together to empower all together, and so we can push in the same direction. So I want to thank so much also our partner in this program, Instrument for Africa, and the CEO, Paul Chandler, who is not here with us today, and say thank you, and take the CCF from the U.S. Embassy to join us this morning, in Georgia from the Interpeace. And all of you, I will not mention all the names, but thank you so much for joining us. And I will tell you, we'll be communicating shortly in the next panel. We'll be hosting as well on different topics, with Malians talking about what's happening in our country. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Can we shake hands?
I don't think we can shake hands, but
shake hands.
how can we put this down?
In the next panel, as well on different talking about what's happening in much, and God bless you. In the next panel, as well on different talking about what's happening in much, and God bless you. In the next panel, as well on different talking about what's happening in much, and God bless you.
Vous avez donné une interview
as well on different talking about what's happening in much, and God bless you.